Friday, August 25th, 2023. Topic: Foreign policy of Vladimir Putin. Please pardon any visual and informational inaccuracies in this entirely AI-generated video.
This text explores Putin's relationship with the West post 9/11, his criticism of U.S. dominance, and Russia's alleged efforts to expand its influence and destabilize Western institutions. After the 9/11 attacks, Putin supported the U.S. in the war on terror, creating an opportunity for a deeper relationship with the West and NATO. However, the U.S.'s unilateral withdrawal from the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty and the expansion of NATO strained relations. Putin's 2007 Munich speech criticized the U.S.'s dominance in global relations, calling for a fair and democratic world order. Despite tensions, both Russian and American officials denied the idea of a new Cold War. Putin continued to oppose a U.S. missile shield in Europe, suggesting shared use of a Soviet-era radar system in Azerbaijan instead. Russia is reportedly seeking to gain dominant influence in former Eastern Bloc states that are culturally and historically close to it, in an effort to undermine Western institutions and values. The German government has voiced concerns about Putin's efforts to spread Russia's sphere of influence beyond former Soviet states in the Balkans. Russia has been reported to court or even fund Europe's far-right and hard Eurosceptic political parties, with the aim of exacerbating divides in Western states and destabilizing the EU. During his first and second term in office, bilateral trade turnover between India and Russia was modest and stood at $3 billion. The major Indian exports to Russia are pharmaceuticals, tea, coffee and spices, apparel and clothing, edible preparations, and engineering goods. Main Indian imports from Russia are iron and steel, fertilizers, non-ferrous metals, paper products, coal, coke and briquettes, cereals, and rubber. Indo-Russian trade is expected to reach $10 billion by 2010. Putin visited Iran in 2007 for the Second Caspian Summit, marking the first visit of a Russian leader to Iran since 1943. He also visited Libya in 2008, becoming the first Russian president to do so. Putin has opposed foreign intervention in the Middle East, including in Syria during the civil war. He has also expressed concerns over the Iranian nuclear program, but has opposed economic sanctions on Iran by the U.S. and EU. The Rose Revolution in Georgia, 2003, the Orange Revolution in Ukraine, 2004, and the Tulip Revolution in Kyrgyzstan, 2005, led to strained relations with Russia. Putin criticized these revolutions, warning they could lead to endless conflict. Economic disputes also arose, such as Russia's 2006 ban on Moldovan and Georgian wines. The Russia-Ukraine gas disputes affected other European countries, leading to shortages. In 2009, a long-term agreement on price formula was reached. Georgia and Ukraine's plans to join NATO caused further tensions. Putin has stated Russia has no intention of annexing any country. Vladimir Putin has long claimed that Ukraine is an artificial creation, with a third of its population being ethnically Russian. He warned that if Ukraine joined NATO, Russia would annex eastern Ukraine and Crimea. In 2014, Russian troops captured strategic sites in Crimea and installed a pro-Russian government. Despite initial denials, Putin later admitted to the military involvement. Russia formally incorporated Crimea in March 2014, leading to its exclusion from the G8 group. Putin insisted that Russia had no intention to invade other regions of Ukraine. In 2021, Russia amassed thousands of troops near Ukraine's border and in Crimea, partially withdrawing them by June. In July, Putin argued that Russians, Ukrainians, and Belarusians are one people. Russia again increased its military presence around Ukraine in October with over 100,000 troops by December. Despite this, Russia denied plans to invade Ukraine from November 2021 to February 2022. Russia demanded that NATO not expand further east and that Ukraine be precluded from joining NATO. On the 21st of February 2022, Russia officially recognized the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics. In February 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin justified the invasion by falsely portraying Ukraine as a neo-Nazi state and claiming the need for denazification. Putin also cited the need to stop NATO's eastward expansion. Despite the invasion, Putin insisted that Russia had no plans to occupy Ukraine and was only targeting military infrastructure. However, by September 2022, Russia had unilaterally declared its annexation of parts of 4 Ukrainian regions, despite only partially occupying them. Several ex-Soviet and ex-communist countries, including Georgia and Moldova, remain areas of tension between the West and Russia due to their breakaway regions favoring Russian annexation. The Crimean crisis has heightened fears of Russia attempting to reshape Eastern Europe's borders. Since the mid-2000s, Georgia has been seeking closer ties with the West, a move that has been opposed by Russia. The 2008 Russo-Georgian War, sparked by Georgia's potential membership in NATO, ended with Russia's unilateral withdrawal, but it continues to occupy parts of Georgia. Despite this, Georgia continues to pursue integration with the West. Meanwhile, the other 2 Caucasus states, Armenia and Azerbaijan, have also been part of the rivalry between Russia and the West, with Armenia aligning with Russia and Azerbaijan with the U.S. and Turkey. Moldova, like Ukraine, is torn between closer ties with the West or Russia. The country, once part of the Soviet Union, signed a trade deal with the EU in 2014, leading to economic pressure from Russia. The 2014 parliamentary elections saw a victory for pro-Western parties. However, the breakaway region of Transnistria voted to join the Russian-backed Eurasian Economic Union in 2014, leading to speculation of a potential Russian attack on Moldova. The Baltic states of Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia, all NATO members, have been closely monitoring Russian military movements. Tensions have been rising since 2014, when Russian military aircraft made several incursions into their airspace. This has led to neighboring countries, Sweden and Finland, considering joining NATO. In 2015, it was suggested that Russia was prepared to use nuclear weapons to prevent NATO from increasing forces in the Baltic states. Putin and Medvedev have maintained strong ties with Venezuela, primarily through arms sales exceeding $4 billion since 2005. They have also conducted joint military exercises and supported Venezuela's leadership amid international criticism. Putin has also re-established ties with Cuba and received their support for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In 2007, Putin became the first Russian leader to visit Indonesia in over 50 years and signed a uranium trade deal with Australia during his first visit there. Russia's economy, heavily reliant on oil and gas exports, has been used for political leverage, particularly in Europe. Disputes with Ukraine over gas supplies have affected other European countries due to pipeline routes. Russia has sought control over the European energy sector and aimed to create a Eurasian Economic Union. The 2014-15 financial crisis, triggered by Western sanctions and falling oil prices, led Russia to sign a $400 billion deal to supply China with natural gas over 30 years. These are significant speeches by Russian President Vladimir Putin, addressing various issues including global security, Russia's annexation of Crimea, and international relations. They provide insight into Putin's political strategies and Russia's position on the global stage. These sources explore various aspects of Russia's foreign policy under President Vladimir Putin, including the country's use of force in Crimea and Donbass, its relations with the U.S., and its global strategy. They also delve into the domestic determinants of Russian foreign policy, the rebuilding of Greater Russia, and the role of ideas in post-Soviet Russia's conduct towards the West. Some sources are sympathetic to Putin, while others critically analyze his actions and strategies. These sources discuss the foreign policy of Russia, particularly under the leadership of Vladimir Putin. They explore Russia's geopolitical strategies, its relations with the U.S., NATO, and countries in the Middle East and North Africa, and its return to great power politics. They also examine the impact of Putin's reign on Russia's economy, defense, and international status, as well as the ongoing tensions between Russia, the U.S., and China. Despite ongoing tensions, the complex dance of diplomacy continues, with both Russia and the U.S. seeking to assert their influence while navigating an increasingly multipolar world order.